Hello, my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and welcome back to part 2 of my Pixar movies ranking 2020. Yes, I've already put out the first part of this video. Because there's 23 films to rank, I didn't want the video to be too long, so I've done it in 3 parts, and today I bring you part 2. I have got the first part if you want to see my list so far, but just in case you haven't or you don't want to, here is a recap for you. So, number 23 was Cars, number 22 was Cars 2, number 21 was Monsters University, number 20 was Cars 3, number 19 is Brave, number 18 The Good Dinosaur, number 17 was Ratatouille. So, once again, this is just a personal list, my own preference. I'm not saying this is how you should rank it, and if you do disagree, that is fine, as long as you're polite about it. Any hostility will not be tolerated, and any nasty comments will be removed from the comment section. Thank you. And of course, whenever I mention Soul in this ranking, there will be spoilers for Soul, as I know Soul is now streaming on Disney+. So anyway, let's go back to the list. And at number 16, we have Finding Dory. Yes, the long-awaited sequel to Finding Nemo, which we didn't think we needed, but we still got it anyway. I like Finding Dory. I'm not going to say it's a perfect movie. It is kind of repetitive. There is an element of repetition there, but I do like this movie. It's a solid time, and obviously the story is very simple. You know, Dory wants to find her parents, but they managed to treat her condition, you know, the short-term memory loss, with a lot of sensitivity. But ultimately, it's good, but I don't think it blew me away in the same way that Finding Nemo did. We spend a long time in this film in this marine life center. Some of the comedy is very cute scene, sort of kiddie, like with the otters at the end on the road. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't funny. The octopus Hank was really good. He was really fun. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so I can't remember too many details. But I like the new kid that voices Nemo. He's very good, and he actually sounds somewhat similar to the original actor. Marlin is good, although Nemo and Marlin, they do get sort of sidelined in this one. Obviously, the roles are reversed now, because in the first film, they were the main focus, and Dory was the side character, but in this one, it's all about Dory. And I do like all the revelations and all the flashbacks regarding her parents. That's very interesting, and it's, once again, so beautifully animated. I mean, every time Pixar have any scenes underwater, particularly with these movies, it just looks incredible. It really does. What can I say? I mean, this movie was released 13 years after the original, so technology had advanced by quite some mile. I'll say that. I like the new characters. There are quite a lot of them. Sometimes the echolocation thing with Bailey can get a little bit tiresome after a while. But I like Bailey and Destiny. They're good characters. The music is very good. I think I forget their names, but the the sea lions on the rock, they're funny. They've got some amusing moments, and obviously Sigourney Weaver is in this one, which is nice. It doesn't do anything remotely amazing, but I do think its heart is in the right place, and that the emotionality of the story is there. I just don't think it's mind-blowingly amazing, like I said. I just think there are better films in the series. I was kind of expecting a bit more after the first Finding Nemo, but I did appreciate how they handled the short-term memory loss, and the fact that we see Dory struggling to kind of put the pieces together, but then she kind of has to backtrack, get herself into the right frame of mind, and then she will start to remember things, and she'll be able to piece things together. It just takes her a bit of time, but she'll be able to do it. So it was well done, because obviously in the first movie, Dory was kind of a lost soul, and she didn't really know how to control her short-term memory loss, and only through meeting kind of Marlin and Nemo has she found a family again, because obviously she was separated from her parents. And I do like the way that this film tied in with the first film, how Dory was kind of lost for all this time before she ran into Marlin and helped him find Nemo in the first movie. So yeah, Finding Dory, I like it. I think it's a really charming, really fun film. I just don't think it's a masterpiece. It's not as good as the first one, but it is delightful, and it is fun. It's a nice addition to the story, but you know, it's one of those ones that I'm more kind of indifferent towards Finding Dory, to be perfectly honest. Maybe there are a couple of scenes which go on a bit, like they do drag, but honestly, this is a good one. I need to watch it again because my memory seems to be quite hazy on it. I apologise. Okay, number 15. Now, this is an interesting one. Onward. Yes, Onward. This is one of the more recent Pixar movies, and it was released earlier this year before the coronavirus pandemic. Now, I like Onward. I've seen it 2 or 3 times now, and it's now on Disney Plus, of course. Like, when it had its limited theatrical release, I managed to see it back in March before the lockdowns, and then I saw it again because it was still playing in the cinema, and my friend hadn't seen it, and then we went during summer to watch it, obviously in a socially distant manner. Onward is good. It's fun. Dan Scanlon definitely redeemed himself after Monsters University. And it's definitely a better fantasy adventure than Brave was, I think. And I like the emotional storyline in this one. The fact that it's about the 2 brothers, Ian and Barley, and how Ian realises that all his life he did have a dad, and it was his brother. His brother raised him, and they have such a great bond, and that's what carries the film, is their emotional relationship. And I love the fact that this is very much like a kind of Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter sort of fantasy quest where they have to work out spells and find things, and again, like Finding Dory, it didn't blow me away as such, but I enjoyed it. It didn't like emotionally break me or anything. But I certainly understood what it was trying to do, and I've heard from a couple of my friends how much they relate to it. They think that it's great because of the father-son relationship. And yeah, I mean, I can see why people connect with it. I really can. But I just think there are better Pixar films. and again, that's nothing bad to say. For me, my criticisms would be, I think the Manticore character is annoying. I just find her to be slightly annoying. She didn't really need to come on the adventure with the mother. I just kind of found her to be sort of unnecessary in the film, to be honest. They just go to her tavern to find a map, and then she just tags along for the ride, really, which is, you know, but I think just too much. I think there's slightly just too much of her. And I think the ending, you know, the third act, them just fighting a massive dragon, you know, they could have actually had a real dragon instead of a dragon made up of all the ground and the dirt and the pavement and whatever, all the various bits and pieces around the school. But it's still entertaining, but you just kind of think, well, this is a magical world. They could do that. And I just think that it is a fun movie. It is a really fun movie. But I think it's more fun than emotional. And it's okay to have a movie that's kind of fun. And I like the explanation behind the world and the world building, how it is a magical world, and then technology kind of took over, which is interesting. And I know that there's definitely some people that could link this one very clearly in with the Pixar theory. And I think that they've got a great voice cast here. I mean, Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, they are exceptional in this film together as brothers, and they really do have a great bond together. And obviously, Tom Holland is British, and he's putting on an American accent for the role, like he does with Spider-Man. And it's nice to have a role where Tom Holland can disassociate himself from Spider-Man. And it's a great film. It's a really fun movie, but it's not my favourite Pixar film, obviously. So, number 14 is Toy Story 4. Yes, Toy Story 4, the 4th and hopefully final movie of this series. Toy Story 4, you know, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this. When Pixar announced that they were going to make a 4th Toy Story movie, everybody was like, no, you can't do that. The 3rd one was the perfect ending. And for a long time, I did agree with them. I honestly thought Toy Story felt complete as a trilogy. We didn't need to have another one. Little did I know, the 4th movie actually turned out to be really, really good. It's lower on the list than I would have liked, simply because other films are better. And yeah, it is basically an extended epilogue, I think, to the ending of Toy Story 3. But I really liked Toy Story 4 because it concluded Woody's story arc even further. We had the conclusion of the whole Andy story in the 3rd film, and maybe this was the last part of the story they just thought that we didn't have a resolution to. We're seeing Woody at the start of this one without a purpose. He has no purpose left anymore. His previous owner is gone. Bonnie doesn't seem very interested in him, and then when he finds Bo again, he wants to kind of rekindle their relationship to which they had all those years ago. And Bo is different as well. I love Bo Peep in this movie. Bo Peep is great, and it's great to see her back. She's much more of a badass in this one. She's much more of a tough sort of warrior, and she has a definite change of look in this one as well. They've given her a lot more to do as well, because she was always a sort of secondary character, but you knew that her and Woody were in love. They had a romance, and I like the fact that, you know, she's not just completely enamored by him anymore. She questions him. She's like, you know, so the rest of us don't count. You know, you can't just cling to this one kid for the rest of your life. So I think there's several great dramatic scenes in this story. Like Woody, he's trying so desperately to be there for Bonnie, even though she doesn't want him. And that's when Woody decides to basically start a new life and change his life because he's not needed anymore. And that's where the ending comes in. It's a very heartfelt goodbye that he says to Buzz and the gang, where he decides to stay and entertain kids in the carnival. I like the setting of the carnival, and I think it really adds a different dimension. We've never experienced a Toy Story movie where we've seen a carnival up until this point. I think my one criticism with this story would be that the original toys don't get too much to do. Like, the secondary characters, they're just kind of stuck in the RV for most of the time. I mean, Buzz probably gets the most to do, but even then, he's not in it that much. Some people criticize Buzz in this movie. They think that he's kind of become a bit dumb. I can understand where they're coming from, but I think I choose to see it as this. After Toy Story 3, his brain was kind of scrambled after he went to Spanish mode, and he's still readjusting his mental state, so to speak. It's like the whole thing with his inner voice. Yeah, I just think that's probably what's happened. I really like the character of Gabby, and initially in my review, I'd said that I kind of wished we'd seen more of her as a villain before we then revealed her to be good. I'm not so sure I really stand by that anymore. I'm quite happy with the way they did it. She's not a villain. She appears to be a bit of a villain at first, but then we find out she just wants what Woody's had all this time. She just wants to be loved. And she wants his voice box because she's a broken toy, so nobody else will want her anymore. And I think there's a very poignant scene where she is picked up by a girl. Oh god, I forget the girl's name. Yeah, sorry, the girl's called Harmony. Yeah, when Harmony picks her up and then tosses her aside, it's a really sad moment. You actually really feel for Gabby, and in the end Gabby does get her happy ending, which is nice, and Woody decides to do the right thing and accept that he's no longer purposeful in Bonnie's life, and he just leaves. You know, he just stays behind. The movie hits a lot of emotional beats, and especially as well when he reunites with Bo. That's a really great moment, especially when he reminds her of how he used to make Molly feel safe at night when she was the light that kept her safe. That was a lovely little speech, and the opening of this film is really well done. The animation has come so far since the first one, when we see Woody trying to rescue the RC car in the rain. Just brilliant, and the music is fantastic as well. The music in Toy Story 4 is superb. Not so much the songs, but the soundtrack is very good. The new characters are really fun. Duke-a-Boom cracks me up. Duke-a-Boom is awesome. He's very funny, voiced by Keanu Reeves. Ducky and Bunny, they're also very funny, especially in the scenes when they go up against the old lady. That cracks me up. And then there's also Forky. I like the idea of Forky. He's a really good character. I was worried that Forky was going to be annoying, but it turns out no, he's actually kind of cute, and he's not in the film that much, at least as much as I thought he was going to be. And he actually learns from Woody. Woody kind of mentors him a little bit to begin with, and then Forky, you know, he manages to fulfill his purpose in Bonnie's life. He's the toy that Bonnie favors and wants to play with. And obviously Woody had that treatment when Andy was growing up, before Buzz came along. So it's an interesting film. I still stand by the opinion that we didn't need Toy Story 4, but at the same time, I'm actually really glad they made it. I'm actually really glad they put a lid on the story. This really does feel like the ending of the saga, And it feels like a perfect wrap-up, honestly. These Toy Story movies have been very, very consistent. Although, this is the point where I do say, okay, enough. It's time to stop now. It's time to close the door, close the toy box on this franchise. And this is funny. It's a funny movie as well. A lot of great comedic scenes in this one. But yeah, I just wish the original cast had a little bit more to do, which is a real shame. But aside that, Toy Story 4 is a great movie. It is the weakest of the series, in my opinion, but I will still hold it in high regard in the fact that we got it, and I was nervous about it, and Pixar proved me wrong. They proved that they still had it in them, so thank you for that. Okay, sorry about the long description about that. Number 13, Coco. Now, this movie is an interesting one. A lot of people love it a lot. I don't think it's as good as everyone says it is. I think Coco is slightly overrated, just a teeny bit overrated. The idea of it is fabulous, and the theme of music is definitely something to behold in this film. And the emotion is definitely in the right place, don't get me wrong. I just found some of the characters a bit one note. Some of the supporting cast were a bit... I think that there's just too many of them. I understand that there's, sometimes, the Mexican families are massive anyway. There's always a lot of people, but I think they should have trimmed out some of the characters. It is hard to keep up with who's who at times. As well, the whole revelation regarding Ernesto de la Cruz and Hector, I kind of saw it coming. I wasn't surprised when they revealed the reveal, so to speak. I won't say any spoilers if you haven't seen it, but I did nearly tear up at the end of this film when he sang to his, I think it's his great-grandmother. I forget. Again, there's so many, there's so many characters. But and visually, just Coco is just wonderful. It is one of the most visually stunning Pixar movies I've ever seen. Some really heart-stopping moments. Miguel is a great protagonist, and all the songs and the music in the film are, they're just fabulous. They are just fabulous. But I haven't seen it for a while, so I must rewatch the film. But I'd taken over Toy Story 4 simply because Toy Story 4 is a sequel, and Coco is an original film, and I just thought the ideas of Coco were bold and brave. They really delved into some very excellent ideas, but I'm not going to go on a long ramble. I'll let you watch my review to hear my extended thoughts. Number 12 is another Pixar sequel, and it's one that we had waited for 14 years. The Incredibles 2. Ba-dum-bum-ba-dum. Oh god, I love The Incredibles 2. I really do. It speaks volumes that we had to wait 14 years for this movie, but boy was it worth it. I was kind of resigning myself to the fact that I thought, they're never going to make The Incredibles 2 now. It's been too long. They don't care anymore. They don't care about The Incredibles 2. But I was wrong. And I'm glad Pixar chose to make it in the end, but I think Brad Bird had said in the past he would only make it if he felt that the ideas were there and that they feel that it wouldn't live up to the first one. And for me, this movie totally lives up to the first one. I give the first one the slight edge, but I do really love The Incredibles 2. It is a fantastic continuation after the first one, and I love the way it starts with the Underminer, which is the opening we all wanted to see for 14 years, and that was definitely something to behold. Michael Giacchino's score is also once again brilliant. Again, continuing the kind of jazz vibe of the score. Some tracks are quite similar, but others are really interesting and new. For me, the one weakness of this film is the villain, the screenslaver. It's not so much the villain itself; it's more the fact that it was done as a twist. Evelyn Dever, I mean, you could see it coming from a mile away. I knew it was going to be her. I just knew it. The way they dressed her in dark, put her in the dark background of the corners of the room. Her name as well, Evelyn Dever, Evil Endeavor. Put two and two together. Wasn't hard to work out. Don't get me wrong. As a character, I like her and I buy her motivations totally. But I just felt that as a villain, like the whole twist thing, it just didn't need to happen. Like, she even says at one point, "I'm the genius behind the genius." I mean, geez, if that isn't telegraphing it, I don't know what is. It's the one thing that I really I can't give this movie a perfect 10 out of 10. I just can't because of that one massive thing that sticks out. So I gave it a 9 out of 10 in my review. But this was definitely worth the wait. And I like the fact that the roles reversed here and we got to see Helen take more of a lead this time, and while Bob stays at home and looks after the kids. And in a way, I like that was a part of the story as well, because as people go on about superheroes being these fantastical people with great powers who can save the world, but ultimately it's the little things that make you a hero. Being a parent, it's a heroic act, as Edna says, and it's not easy. And I like the fact that this movie displays that. And Jack Pa, he's adorable, funny, cute. He's hilarious. Need I say more? Please watch the Auntie Edna short as well, which is on Disney Plus and on the Blu-ray. It shows you what happened to Jack while he was left with Edna, which is really, really interesting. I think it is. But yeah, it's a great movie, great action sequences, great story, great continuation from the first one, thrilling climax. The kids get a lot to do as well, and the other secondary characters like Void, Brick, Screech, they're all really good too. Winston Dever is also a good character, and like I said, it's a great continuation after the first one. But I do prefer the first one. Anyway, moving on. Number 11. Now this might be a controversial one. A Bug's Life. Yes, not everybody would rate A Bug's Life this high. To me, I've always had a sentimental attachment to this movie. I think more than most people. I've had a kind of a deep relationship with it. Not to sugarcoat it, but I'm not going to say it's a perfect movie, but I really like A Bug's Life. I think this movie is so damn funny. That's why I love it. I just think it is so damn funny. And the story it's quite a powerful story, actually. How democracy prevails, basically. How the ants refuse to be run as a dictatorship by the grasshoppers. And I like that Flick breaks the hierarchy, and he stands up to Hopper, and he says, ants don't serve grasshoppers, it's you that need us. And I think the message of the story is fantastic, that, like I said, democracy prevails, and it's a very interesting idea. And it is quite dark in places, actually, A Bug's Life, more so than people think. Especially, there's some scary imagery with some of the grasshoppers, and in the giant bird as well that happens. I mean, there's so many thrilling scenes. But to me, the comedic scenes are what make it work as well. And I love all the circus animals. They're hilarious. They really are. Say what you will about Kevin Spacey, but Hopper is a great villain. He's a really great villain. I love his brother as well, Molt. He's fabulous. There's so many great characters in A Bug's Life, and it's one of the reasons why I love it so much. There are just so many great characters and so many great things to love about it. And the story is fabulous. It moves at a great pace. It's not slow. It's wonderful. It's very charming. And also, you got to love that soundtrack. That soundtrack is fabulous. By Randy Newman. The score. I also like P.T. Flea, voiced by John Ratzenberger. I think it's almost a classic. If I have any flaws, I don't actually remember. I mean, people compare this movie a lot to Ants. Which one came first, Ants or A Bug's Life, because they were released in the same year. I haven't seen Ants for a long time, so I must watch that movie if I get a chance. It is a DreamWorks movie, and I must review that at some point. As for flaws, I don't know really. I guess maybe some of the images in the movie are dark. I guess, but to be honest, I can't think of any at the moment because I haven't seen it for a long time. I may have to retread my thoughts on A Bug's Life, but I'm sure there's definitely something in it that I found to fault with. And the animation for its time was very good. It is a bit dated now, but for its time, it was pretty damn impressive. Number 10 is Up. We're getting into the top 10 now. Up is a lovely film. It is a really wonderful film. Pete Docter, once again, dealing with some very mature themes here, dealing with the idea of grief and loss, and the character of Carl Fredricksen, honouring his final promise to his wife that he would take her up to Paradise Falls, which is the place they've dreamed of since they were kids. And he decides to go on his own, and he decides to fly his house up there, thinking, well, he's not going to have many years left. Before they shove him into a care home, he's thinking, well, okay, let's do it. You only live once. And he's a retired balloon salesman, so he's got enough balloons to lift his house. I mean, maybe you could argue the practicality of that is a little bit unbelievable, but dude, this is an animated film. Who cares? It doesn't have to make sense. I love the little boy Russell, the dog known as Doug. The dogs are really funny, the talking dogs. The villain Muntz, he's probably the weak element of the film. I don't think he's in it as much as he could be. He's not really that well developed. Like, he's been in the island for so long, and you'd think like he would give up his pursuit of the bird, but no, he doesn't. I just think maybe there could have been a bit more to his character. But overall, it's a fun adventure. It's a great emotional film. I mean, the first 10 minutes are, well, they're a short film. The first 10 minutes is a whole short film in itself. It's just beautiful, and the score, the Oscar-winning soundtrack by Michael Giacchino, is perfect. It really is, and you can see why it won the awards. It's a wonderful film, and I must watch it again. I really must. It's just such a wonderful film, and emotionally hits the right beats, and the comedy is very good. I mean, yeah, you could argue some of the things on the island are a bit strange, and the adventure is very weird, but that's half the fun of it. You know, it's not a depressing movie just because he loses his wife at the beginning. It is lovely and charming and heartfelt, and it's funny. It's anyone can watch this film. It's at number 10 because there are just 9 other movies that I slightly prefer. So, in any case, let's press on. And finally, number 9 is Monsters, Inc. Yes, Monsters, Inc. This movie is a classic. I love Monsters, Inc. And I think it's definitely one of Pixar's greatest achievements. Without question. I love the whole idea of the world and the story that, you know, they have to get the energy to supply their world from screams, and by going through closet doors they can do so. Just genius work. But what keeps this movie going for me is the emotional weight of it, with the relationship with Sully, the big monster, and Boo, the little girl. Well, her real name is Mary, but he calls her Boo. And Mike and Sully are just two great protagonists. I watched the movie again recently, and I really do I really do like it. And their dynamic is really fun. Yeah, I mean, Mike, he's a little bit of a control freak. He's a little bit bossy, but he's still pretty charming when he wants to be. John Brassenberger is the Abominable Snowman. He's also very charming. I like him very much. The fact that they animated the bloopers, I think, is hilarious. And they had to have the company play the "put that thing back where it came from," or "so help me." I just thought that's just so funny. It's so genius. And that's dedication right there. And it's beautifully animated, and I love the third act of the film, the climax, when they have to go riding on the doors to catch Randall, who has captured Boo, the little girl. Randall is a bloody slimeball. He's a nasty piece of work. If I have any criticisms, I think maybe it's the character of Waternoose. He doesn't just get to really do much as a villain. He's revealed to be a villain late in the day. I just don't like the idea of the twist villains. It just doesn't normally work very well. I just think maybe it should have just been Randall, but although, I mean, I can understand why he's the villain. It makes sense, you know, his company was failing, and he was just doing what he thought was right to save his company, but he could have had more to do. I think that's my main thing. But the animation's great. It's brilliantly directed by Pete Docter. The voice cast are great. I mean, you've got John Goodman and Billy Crystal. I mean, Steve Buscemi. What's not to like? And obviously you have Jennifer Tilly as Celia, or Shamusi Poo. Yeah, I love Celia. She's great. And I love the fact that they called the restaurant Harryhausen's. That's a nice reference to Ray Harryhausen there. I mean, Monsters, Inc. is just such a funny movie. It's such a charming film with a great story. And it's just got so much heart and so much dedication has been put into it. It's definitely a classic. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so I think I've rambled on long enough. So, just to reiterate my list again. We have number 23, Cars. Number 22, Cars 2. Number 21, Monsters University. Number 20, Cars 3. 19, Brave. 18, The Good Dinosaur. 17, Ratatouille. 16, Finding Dory. 15, Onward. 14, Toy Story 4. 13, Coco. 12, The Incredibles 2. 11, A Bug's Life. 10, Up. 9, Monsters, Inc. So, that leaves us with the third and final part of this ranking to come. So thank you very much all for listening to me, and please leave your further lists down below and let me know what you think, and stay tuned later when I reveal my top 8 in the list. So until then, thank you all for watching, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See you soon. Bye for now.